In today's interview, we sit down with Ray Sasser to learn why creative deal structuring is one of the most important things you can learn as a real estate investor right now. Hey, it's Josh Harris here with REI Black Book, and I'm really excited to bring you this interview today where we have Damon, the founder and CEO of REI Black Book, sitting down with Ray Sasser, who's a veteran real estate investor. He's been investing in real estate in some form or fashion since the early 80s. And in this interview, he talks about how over his career, he's flipped over 1,000 houses. And it was interesting because he actually said that it was a huge waste of time and money, and it cost him a lot of opportunity. He said over $3 to $4 million in lost opportunity because he was flipping all these houses. In the interview, he talks about why flipping 4 to 5 houses just to get started is really enough. And then what you should spend your time on is learning how to become a creative deal maker, what he calls it. In this interview, you're gonna learn why actually structuring the deal properly and getting creative with the different types of offers that you make will help you make more money over the long term as a real estate investor. And Damon also talks about a new tool that we just released called the Multi-Offer Generator that's gonna help you structure these deals easily and effectively. And it helps you spin up these offer letters that you can send to sellers on the fly. If you're new to this channel, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and also the bell icon so you get notified every time that we publish a new video. And with that, let's get into the interview.
All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, it's Damon over here at REI Black Book, and I'm excited today because I've got the one and only Ray Sasser on the call with me. He's actually sitting in one of his properties. So you may hear a little bit of an echo, but we're not going to worry about any of that stuff because really what we got to talk today about is going to be pretty important. So I know a lot of you guys are out there wholesaling, rehabbing, doing all that type of stuff. But first and foremost, I was just kind of chatting with Ray. I said, "Hey, Ray, what are some of the things you're most proud of in your career?" He's like, "Well, I'll tell you what I'm like not as proud of." I was like, "Okay, well, that's an interesting take on things." And he told me he's rehabbed about 1,000 properties, but that cost him, that keyword cost, not lost, cost him about $3 million. All right. So if you guys want to learn and understand why rehabbing properties has cost Ray about $3 million, then you want to really stay tuned for this conversation. Okay. So Ray, first and foremost, man, I appreciate your time. Thanks for really joining me today.
Well, thank you, Damon, for having me. And yeah, I'm actually looking at this house. I'm trying to get there before the wholesalers do. And since I have a super key, I let myself in. So I'm trying to beat the other 20 people to this house.
There you go. Well, we kind of started that off a little bit different than most, right? You're like, "Hey, I don't want you to brag on me. I want you to tell everybody, hey, this is things I'm not so proud of." So that's pretty cool. But yeah. Why in the heck did rehabbing 1,000 properties cost you $3 million?
We're in the house business. I am in the house business. So rehabbing is important. I mean, I think you got to get a few of those through your system. And once you've done those 4 or 5, that's enough. And you can have a team do it, but I was like wiring the houses, got an AC license, doing the plumbing. And it's like, okay, there's got to be another way besides making $12 an hour. And eventually I got the one guy, then the 2 guys, then the team. And finally, after 38 years, I think I finally figured it out, is stay away from the house. In fact, we're buying them kind of all over the country. My main goal is to never step foot in a house. And if you can do that, you've maybe done something.
So 38 years and you've about got it figured out, right?
Yeah, so just about. You can never stop learning because they keep changing the rules. I mean, the damn goalposts keep changing. So
that's absolutely the truth right there. That's a super important part. And what we want to chat about today is, and neither you nor I, you've been doing this for 38 years. So I'm sure you probably can start recognizing some similarities from things that you've seen in the past of where the market's at. But like you said, man, the rules are always changing. So even though, we see some similarities, it doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the same. But I want to chat about some things that you should be doing today. Because really, you said it, we are in the house business. And you need to figure out how to keep some of those houses. If you're wholesaling, if you're rehabbing, those are important pieces of our whole, this whole economic system of real estate. Super important. Those are vital pieces of the puzzle. But if you really want to gain long-term wealth, it's how do you keep a few of those houses, right?
When I first started, my brother and I were partners. We partnered on about 100 houses. And I had a full-time job. I loved my job. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. And we went to like a Robert Allen Nothing Down seminar.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, we're buying a house and it's a burnout. And it was a single house with a unfinished garage apartment. We turned the house into a duplex, then made the garage apartment. We finished the garage apartment because it was just basically a shell. We ended up owning the house for 30 years. And I'm going to throw some numbers out real fast, but this is our first deal. Because I had a full-time job, I didn't need to cash out of it. And that's the hard part, is when people start going full-time, they start cashing out of things. And I've done the math. It's actually possible to do the math if you can calculate the present value of an income stream. But I've done the math, and buy and hold guys are making 6 to 8 times more than the flippers, and the flippers and the wholesalers. And so, like, how can we do this and actually keep a job? And that first deal, by the way, we had it for 30 years. We bought it, fixed it up, refinanced it, and it was a roller coaster, right? I mean, it's like sheer boredom accented by sheer terror on a regular basis. So we went through that process, but the fact is we held it for 30 years. We paid about $100,000 for it. We paid it off in 15 years and that included a $300 a month positive cash flow for the first 15 years.
Okay.
We went out, we reborrowed that money. In other words, we pulled $100,000 out of it. That's not taxable, right? It's not taxable because it's a loan. Then we paid it off again. And I say we paid it off. We actually sold it after owning it. We were like 1 or 2 months from paying it off the second time. Then in 2007, 2008, we had all these little bank accounts called houses with serious equity in them. And then the crash came along, and I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to finish these numbers first. The crash kind of gets rid of some people, and the other people just go right through it. And so in 2008, we needed money because we had properties on the market. The houses literally stopped selling overnight. We cashed that house in for $200,000. So we pulled $100,000 out of it. We cashed it in for $200,000, and then we had 30 years of about $300 a month positive cash flow. So, like, you can tell me you're making $10,000 on a wholesale fee. We made $400,000 or around $400,000 on that. And the bad thing is, the big mistake we made, and I made many of these, is we sold the house, and in 2007, 2008, the market turned around and it doubled in value in about 5 years. And we sold it before we got that doubling in value.
Right. So the interesting thing there is you're talking about, and I know you kind of mentioned the crash there at the tail end, right?
Right.
Is that, man, sometimes that slow money, right? $400,000 on your first deal. Now, obviously took you a while to recognize that money. Everything else, we get that. Doesn't sound quite as sexy as, hey, I want to go make $10,000 in a day, right? Doesn't sound as sexy, but that's the one thing I forget where I read this, to be honest, but it was they were talking about making money and really building wealth, and it was like the concept of doing this is like sometimes it gets a little bit boring. So you'd mentioned being bored there. It's like, well, man, it can be boring just doing that same thing over and over again, collecting that $300 a month. But really, that's what we're talking about here, is how to build long-term wealth with actually keeping some of these houses that are coming across your desk. But I think the number one problem today is like, all right, well, I'm sitting here wholesaling for a reason because I don't have any money. I don't have any credit. So how the heck am I going to keep some of these properties that come across my desk, right?
And I ran across a couple guys early on. They're both deceased now, Jimmy Napier and Jack Miller, and they taught me how to put deals together. These guys were creative deal makers. And a lot of people think, hey, this is a new thing. Our founding fathers were creative deal makers. If you read history, you'll see, I mean, they're over there negotiating on lots in Manhattan, because Manhattan's an up and coming place. And, and our forefathers were doing that. Alexander Hamilton refused to go because he wanted to work on some other things with a couple of his buddies. He didn't go to Manhattan, and he, I guess, got an argument with Aaron Burr. It didn't turn out good for him. But creative real estate has been out there for a long time, and In 2007, 2008, a good friend of mine was living in a hotel. I didn't know it, but he was probably the number one wholesaler in Houston market. He was probably, and that in that time, he's making $300,000 to $400,000 a year. He was living in a hotel, paying weekly rent. They're fixing to kick him out. And I put him in one of our houses in a travel trailer in the driveway, and he lived in there for about 6 months. And Jack Miller said that early on. He said the people that figure out how to buy and hold, they stay in the business, whether it's an up market or down market. So the question is, when I had the job, it was easy to buy and hold because I had bankable credit, I had income, I didn't need the money. And I've learned a long time ago, for the guys that have been married a long time like me, your money's a lot better sitting in a house than it is sitting in a bank account. And I won't say any more than that. You just read between the lines. So if that money's sitting in the house and it's growing, those are like your little soldiers. And that first house, it took us like 6 months to do it because we were working full-time jobs. It took us 6 months. That same job, now I pick up a phone, I have our crew go do it. A month later, they're done. It's put into inventory. Then the next month, and I don't even have to wait till the next month. I'm working on the next one, working on the next one, working on the next one. So one of my superheroes is Peter Fortunato. I don't know if you ever ran across him.
Yeah,
He's all about building relationships. He told me that 30 years ago, and it was the most compelling discussion I'd ever heard. And it's about you build relationships with people, you get it to where they know you, trust you, and like you, and they're going to do business with you. And sometimes those people, all you need to think about a dentist. He makes $1 million a year, and he works around the clock, and he doesn't have any free time. You think he's going to be managing a portfolio of real estate? No. But he's got a real problem because where's he going to put his money? So there's lots of money sitting out there now with self-directed IRAs. There's trillions of dollars sitting out there. So you need to help people figure out how to get good returns on their money. And those can be your partners who will help you put creative structures together. So you don't have to wholesale necessarily. There's a perfect place for wholesaling. But anytime you can pull a deal out of that wholesale stack and turn it into a buy and hold and cut your income back a little bit, you're much further ahead. And you get 5 or 10 or 15 of these working for you, and you're done. You're, that financial freedom number people talk about, you're there.
Yeah, it really is. It really is hard, right, to achieve financial freedom if you're just wholesaling houses, right? Because I mean, it starts over at zero every month, right? I used to be in the mortgage business. So I was a mortgage guy before I got into the real estate investing side of the world. Now, even in the mortgage world, we focused primarily on real estate investor clients. But the one thing that I remember telling myself, I love the job and everything else, but it was a job. And the thing that I hated the most was, the scoreboard, went back to zero on the first of the month, right? It's like, man, it's like,
you're working for somebody else's dream. And Damon, as a mortgage person, how hard you have to work if you're flipping houses, or if you're a wholesaler selling to flipping. That flipper works his tail off just to get the loan done, get the person qualified, and that's work. You don't get that back. You're basically, you and the flipper starting at zero, and both of those can be really good paying jobs, and they will both keep you working and keeping your nose to the grindstone for the rest of your life.
Yep, absolutely. And the interesting thing there is the amount of work that it actually does take to go to these traditional banks, the complexities and everything else. And I know, you used to underwrite this stuff, come in, I'd look at you, and you got to qualify, the house has got to qualify. All kinds of rules and regulations there. But we think that that's just the only way. It's like, hell, I don't even know if they teach you mortgages in school, right? I don't think I learned that. But it's just kind of traditional mindset that's the only way you're going to go out and buy houses, right? It's like, I'm going to go buy a house. I'm going to go to the bank. The bank's going to give me the money. I got to put 25% of my own money down, which, even that in my mortgage days, I go back and think about all that stuff. It's like, well, I can't even go out and borrow that money, that 25% down. I can't go borrow that 25% down. It has to be in my bank account, because really they like to see that money seasoned in your bank account, right? So all of a sudden I got to put 25% of my own money down. That money has to be sitting in my bank account for typically 60 days. So I got to prove that it's my money. And then they're going to give me the other 75% to buy these investment properties and things of that nature. It's like, that's what we're taught. And
Yeah.
that's the rules, right? I don't know where the rule book is. I'd like to find the rule book, right? You know, it's like,
Well,
where's this damn rule book?
I think you remember it's a relationship business. And remember, like we were talking to a guy, we own a real estate investor association in Houston and San Antonio. And I was talking to one of the guys and he says, hey, I got like $400,000 sitting in my self-directed IRA and I got a Roth IRA and I got a traditional and I want to make a little bit more money on the Roth so I can use that money faster and less on the traditional. And so it's like, as he's talking, if you listen to people and you solve their problem, they're going to solve your problem. And basically, hey, we'll make the Roth the first. We'll make the traditional first, make the Roth the second. You're the lender on both of them. And then naturally, one's going to have a higher interest rate than the other because it's a first or second. And so problem solved. And now because I solved that problem, now he can fund me. And a lot of people don't believe this can happen. But if people know you, trust you, and like you, you can sit down. And I remember one of the very first times we used private money, for example. I went up this lady that I knew for a long time. Her name was Dolores. And I said, Dolores, the house needs about $60,000 to buy it. And we need about $10,000 to fix it. So that was $70,000. And she literally reached over to her purse, started writing out a check. And I'm saying, no, Dolores, that's not how it works. You gotta send the money to the title company, or at least make the check out to the title company. Because if I get hit by a bus, then you may never get your money back. But if people know you, trust you, like you, they're gonna be the grease that lubricates the rails for this, whatever your operation is. So that's just one element. Now, if you take that example for example, what if I would have borrowed $10,000 more from? What if I'd have said, Dolores, this property's worth 110, 120, and instead of getting the 60 fix up and the 10 rehab, what if I'd have got 60, 10 rehab, and 10 to fund my business? Right? Like $5,000 for deal generation and $5,000 for my living expenses. Well, I just stopped being a wholesaler right there. I just paid myself with borrowed money, right? I just paid myself. It's not taxable at that point. Plus, I got the $10,000 I would have got if I wholesaled it. But now I've got to buy and hold property. And if you got a good relationship with that person, that loan could be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. It could be whatever the needs of that lender is. So that's just like one of 100 ways to be creative in this. And you don't have to be a wholesaler. Sometimes you do. Like if we buy high-end properties, we're going to flip those, or we might wholesale them because we really put a lot of effort in generating leads. I mean, that's why REI Black Book is so important to us, because we need those tools to make this work for us. But sometimes it's a wholesale, sometimes it's a buy and hold, sometimes it's a flip. So every deal is different.
All right, hey, I hope you're enjoying this interview. Real quick, I just wanted to tell you about the new tool that we just released called the Multi-Offer Generator. It's a tool that allows you to quickly analyze deals and make creative offers, and it allows you, with the click of a button, to generate offer letters and send them to your sellers via email. This allows you to get your deals accepted at a higher rate, and it also allows you to close deals that you in the past wouldn't even be able to make offers on. So if you're tired of being a one-trick pony and only being able to make low ball, all cash offers, then you need to check out the Multi-Offer Generator. And you can do so by going to www.reiblackbook.com/MOG. And with that, let's get back to the interview.
And I think I do think that is, I've been at this game in the real estate investing side longer than I care to admit. Not 38 years though, right? So,
yeah, because don't say that, because people will think you're old when you say that.
Well, you know what? I just celebrated a birthday, and I tell you, it's. I think I'm looking at the back half now. I think that's where I'm at. So, but that's.
Do you say, who is that guy looking back at me in the mirror? What happened to that 15-year-old?
Yeah, it changes. That's for daggum sure. But as you know, I've been in this game for a bit of time, and people always ask me, especially a new real estate investor, they're always like, "All right, Damon, what's the absolute best strategy? Tell me the one thing I got to go do." And it's like, well, I just tell them the one thing you got to go do is marketing. Like you got to generate leads, right? Because without leads, without marketing, it's going to be, you're not going to have much success in this business. But I think what you just said really does, encompass very similar to what I tell them. Is like, look, there is no one strategy you're going to do, right? If you
Right.
can go out and market and generate leads, then we got to figure out where that deal fits. What's the best scenario for that deal? And you need to add more quivers, right? Or more arrows to your quiver, I guess I should say, so that I can wholesale it. Maybe I need to fix and flip it. And people are always like, how the heck can I take down a property and buy and hold it if I don't have the capital myself or the credit, right? So you just talked about right there one of the more creative ways, right? Friends and family, personal networking, and you know what? The other thing about that too, I've found this. It's crazy who has money around you that you may not recognize. I remember
Right.
reading a book called The Millionaire Next Door,
Oh, yeah.
right? And it's like, wait a minute, the guy driving that old used truck and the beat up jeans and everything else, like he's the guy with all the money.
Yeah, you can't tell by the way people look who they are. And the other thing, sometimes you can't tell by how much money they're willing to loan you. Like we had one person that basically said, well, let's do small deals, Ray. I've got enough to do a couple small deals. And then we did deals with them for 2 or 3 years, and then we would have quarterly meetings with them. And he said, Ray, I want to put $1 million out on the street. Can you help me place that money? And it's like, where did that come from?
It was all that money you were making. That's where it came from.
Well, in fact, he bought a business and sold it for $4 or $5 million, and now he wanted to put $1 million with me. And you start building those relationships, and maybe you have to start out small. For example, if you're chasing foreclosures, the number one product that a foreclosure generates is a sub-2. So you need to learn how to do sub-2s, which is take over existing mortgage. And if you're doing sub-2s, you still need $10 or $20 or $30,000. But like I would say, like with Damon, for example, if I said, Damon, I need $10,000 to make this sub-2 work. How can I JV with you to make this work? When do you need your money? Do you need your money in 5 years, 10 years? Because we're going to create basically a cash flow with this, an income stream. So if we create an income stream, we can slice and dice that income stream 1,000 different ways once we understand how the money works. And you might say, well, Ray, I need cash flow now. Well, I might say, okay, I'll give you 10 years of $200 a month or $500 a month. Or you might say, Ray, I'm not going to do nothing. I don't need any money right now. I don't need money for 10 years. Then I might say, well, I'll take the cash flow for the 10 years. You get an option on the back end to take the equity in the property or 50% of the property, or who knows, there's 1,000 ways to do this.
The key here is the creativity, right? Like
Right.
This is absolutely, and I think that term, first and foremost, I think where we're headed is it's going to be probably more important than ever to be able to really figure out these creative deal structures. And you just mentioned one of my favorite, which is subject to, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as a mortgage guy, I can tell you where interest rates have been for all these folks out there buying properties for the last decade.
Right.
Are low 6%. Like
Right.
that is ridiculously cheap. Now it's crazy because people out there are buying houses today and they're like, what do you mean 3%, 4%? They feel like that's high all of a sudden. I'm like, wait a minute, guys. This is insane that money, we're talking about 30-year fixed financing, tons of loans out there at, 2.5%, 3%. And
Right.
we all know, look, the way the world works, bottom line is history will repeat itself. And what I mean by that is simply human behavior. So a lot of those folks that bought those properties and are in that good long-term 30-year fixed financing, that life is going to happen. Is it divorce? Is it medical problems? Is it loss of job? Whatever
Right.
it is. So all of a sudden now they're in a tough situation and they've got this beautifully, fixed financing in place. Can you come in and take that over? I think that's going to be a massive wave coming on.
Yeah. We've been doing sub-2s over 30 years, and it's really fun when a sub-2 pays off and all of a sudden you own it free and clear. And it's like, yeah, this works. I'm convinced this works. Now, with sub-2s, the rules kind of change a little bit. So I would not learn sub-2s for somebody that's been doing it 2 or 3 years, because like a lot of our stuff that we've rewritten is because we were in it for 8 years and made a big mistake, or we lost out because we didn't do the escrow right, or, there's a bunch of things that can happen with sub-2s. But the key with sub-2s is that your entry barrier is a lot lower. You could literally have the worst credit in the world and take on a sub-2 loan. Then you need to bring maybe small money in, maybe 10 or 20% of the overall dollars in the deal, and make that work. And what I love about this stuff is I think of it as like putting it into your portfolio, taking a property and either as a rental, set it up where your rental process is automated as much as possible, or do a wraparound where it's even more automated and easier to automate it. And what I learned early on from Jack Miller was, you know what, as a landlord that's doing rentals wrong, my limit's about 20 houses. As a landlord and a person doing owner finance, my limit is unlimited. And the key is figuring out how to put those things in place and make that work. It's not easy in the beginning. I mean, you're going to make every screw up. And then that thing they say, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know it. And you're convinced you do. And then somebody like me will say, no, dummy, don't do that. That won't work. And then,
you've learned
you won't listen
to your two over 30 years, right? So, and what I love about this subject too, and I'm going to ask you to explain it in layman's terms, right? So there's probably some people here watching this or listening to us, and they're like, all right, subject to, what does subject to really even mean?
Okay. Well, the subject, a lot of people say, oh, you're going to take over the loan, so you're going to assume it. And assume means you take legal responsibility and liability for paying it. So that's not what we're doing. We're taking the loan over, or taking the house over, subject to the existing financing. So it means we're just going to take over the loan. We're not going to be personally liable for it. But don't do it. Don't do marginal deals on sub twos, because in 2007, 2008, everybody was doing these marginal sub two deals. And when the market turned and people couldn't sell those properties, these investors that thought they could just walk away from it, wasn't so easy to walk away from it. So just make sure they make sense. I'm pretty confident. You're probably more of a mortgage guy than I am, but I'm pretty confident that inflation is going to go up. Interest rates are going to go up. The values are definitely going up. So with inflation, your loan to value gets better, not worse. So doing sub twos, I don't have any fear going forward in doing sub twos, but you basically are going to take over the existing financing. The paperwork's a little bit more technical, so you got to do the paperwork right. And then we just basically pay the mortgage every month on time. And sub twos can go bad through no fault of your own. And if the people tell you they've never seen it go bad, they just haven't done enough sub twos. We had twice that the seller tried to force us to pay it off, which we changed our documents. We said, okay, if you force us to pay this off, then there's going to be penalties for you to make this loan call. And then the third time we had a sub two where they tried to call it, was we sold the property, and then that person sold the property, and the guy in the middle stopped performing. And that totally caught us by surprise. And so that's 3 sub twos that we had to fight tooth and nail to fix. But I would say by far 99% of them go just fine. And just be ready, do good deals, and you won't ever have to worry about paying off a sub two. You do marginal deals, you could have problems.
So I, as most everybody in the space knows, I'm a software guy that focuses on real estate investors. But I have to, no different than you guys. I look at the real estate and buying and holds. And
right.
That's my retirement plan, right? That's my long-term retirement plan, and let that build up. And one of my absolute best deals, most favorite deals that I have still today, performing very well in my portfolio, is a sub two deal. And and like you said, it does sometimes take some cash up front. I think that's where some people kind of forget that, right? If I'm going to go in, and whenever you say don't do a marginal deal, what do you mean by that? Are you meaning, there's no equity in the deal, like you want some equity? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just your LTVs, try to be at 80 or 85%. I wouldn't go over that, and get good properties on sub twos. But if the values go up, which, if you have inflation, that means the values are going to go up. It means that the spread gets different. And the other thing is your debt, because you have inflation, your debt is fixed, but it's actually with more valuable dollars worth less. So it's essentially eroding the debt. Inflation erodes debt.
Right. So you're absolutely hedging. One of the best ways to hedge against inflation. This actually just came up in a conversation the other day, and everybody's talking about real estate being the best hedge against inflation. I said, no, it's not the real estate. right? Because it's actually the debt against the real estate. So the debt is the hedge against inflation. Yeah.
I was listening to a guy, Damon, about 4 years ago, and he said something, and I thought he messed up. And he's the kind of guy that doesn't mess up. So it made me think, well, maybe I didn't hear him right. And he said, in the future, you're going to be buying debt. And I thought he was supposed to say in the future, you're going to be buying houses that appreciate. But he said, you're buying the debt against the house. And it's like, okay, we've always been thinking, hey, we're buying equity, we're buying something that's appreciation, but we're also getting money that's got a low rent rate.
Yeah.
So, and we arbitrage that rent rate, like if I don't want to talk about cap rates, but what the rate of return that an investment sheds is your cash flow is based on basically a loan constant, which is important to understand, but it's also based on the cost of your money. And if the cost of our money is low, then that scenario you went through where the interest rates are so low, it's an automatic money in the bank when you find that sub two. And if you're out there and you're wholesaling and you're looking for foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, you're going to get so many sub two opportunities. You need to master that. I mean, if you say, look, I'm going to flip some, and the ones that have the good sub twos, then I'm going to hold on to those. That's all you have to do. And in 5 or 6 years, I mean, you're out of the rat race and live a good style doing the wholesaling.
Yeah. So the bottom line though on this though, absolutely one of the best strategies out there. I'll tell you, sincerely, probably my most favorite deal in my portfolio is a sub two deal. I look at it just exactly what we talked about, right? I've got 30-year fixed financing. My payment's $500. It rents for $1,200 right now. So my payment's fixed at $500 the next 30 years. Sure that my taxes and insurance are gonna increase, sure. But the principal and interest fixed at $500, right at $500 a month, renting it for $1,200. And then at the end of the day, I purchased the equity. So I had to pay about 10 grand to purchase the equity. So the gentleman was in a little bit of financial turmoil. He owed right at just under 60 for the property. It was worth about 110. I gave him 10 grand to purchase his equity because he wasn't going to be able to sell it outright. He had some other challenges, and property needed a little bit of TLC, just a little bit, not much. And when I think about what is that deal going to look like in 10 years, right? Whenever I've got that $500, because that's the cost of the money, right? That's exactly what you're talking about. That money cost me $500 a month. And to get that same money in 10 years, who knows what it's going to cost? Maybe it cost me $1,500 a month, right? For that same money, right?
Well, let me tell you a trick I did. Somebody asked a question, if you had to make a lot of money real fast, what would you do? And I had to figure out, like, how much am I making compared, say, as a wholesaler versus a buy and hold on, say, a sub two. And I actually did the math. And and guys, if you're listening to this, let me just take you for a little ride on how I did the math. So if you have a $500 a month cash flow and you put this in a financial calculator, and then you put in a discount rate of what an interest rate is, say that an investor might be able to get, say, 7%. And then you put in the number of payments and you say, solve for present value. What is the present value of that $500 a month for 360 months? I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I think it's around $75,000. So when you did that sub two, you made $75,000 in present value. Now, if you tell me that you can't figure out how to not make the 10,000 and make the 75,000, I mean, that's what the difference is, 10,000 versus 75. So this is not like, oh, I'll just show up and we'll try this. No, you're throwing away $65,000, you loser. Don't do that.
Yeah,
figure out how to be creative. A little bit.
Well, first of all, if you can't figure out $10,000 is less than $75,000, you got a problem there anyway, right? And then, the next questions are probably going to be, all right, well, guys, this sounds great, but how the heck do I learn more about this stuff, right? So I mean, this is an area where I lean into you and say, okay, well, Ray's been doing this for, like you said, learn for somebody that's been doing it not just a year or so, because you found problems 8 years in that you didn't anticipate, right? And smart people, I think they call it genius level thinking, is like, well, I want to learn, Ray, what I want to know is I want to come to you and say, Ray, can I learn from all of your mistakes so that I don't have to make them, right? because, I don't want to keep banging.
Right.
It's like, look, he's already beat his head through that wall a couple of times. He's already knocked down that wall. Let's just follow in Ray's path. So how do people learn a little bit more specifically on how to?
Well, and by the way, I'm not finished making mistakes. I'm still finding new and ingenious ways to make mistakes. And some of them I've done more than once. I remember Audie and I were leaving a closing once, and we made a mistake, and it cost us some like $4,000 or $5,000. And Audie said, he said, "Well, look at it like this. We learned something." And I said, "Audie, we've already learned that. We've already learned that lesson. We don't need to learn that."
Maybe that's why I stay behind you, right? So I'll just stay right behind you. You just keep trucking forward, right?
Yeah, but we have a Facebook group called Massive Passive for wholesalers, fixers, and deal makers. And if you sign in on that, then if you have questions, we do coaching too, but there's 3 of us that have made a promise to anybody that signs up to it. If you ask specific questions on there, we may give you more of an answer than you really want. All we ask is be respectful of our time too. Don't say like, "How do I wholesale?" Don't do that. Like ask a specific question like, what 3 clauses do I need to put in an assignment agreement, or something, or how do I know if I have a good ARV, or who do I get, something specific. And don't do hypotheticals, because we're out there every day making deals and trying to make this stuff work. And so be specific and make it real.
Well, that's a huge value add in and of itself, right? And I think there's too many groups out there right now today that they already have, they're flooded with how do I wholesale, right? It's like,
right.
That's honestly too much, and it's really hard to maintain and upkeep. So being very direct and being very specific is absolutely pretty awesome. So Ray, the last thing I'll want to kind of chat a little bit about, and honestly, I don't even know if you've looked at it just yet, because this is a brand new tool inside of REI Blackbook. And if it's not turned on, I'll talk to Kevin. We'll make sure we get this thing turned on.
Okay.
But we built a new tool called the multi-offer generator, right?
Love it.
So the one thing that we figured out, and I learned this, from whoever in the space, right? It's not a new tactic. That's the one thing that I do realize, like, there's not too many brand new tactics. It's like, all right, we might put a little different spin on the same thing that was working 30 years ago. But instead of just putting out that hey, here's my wholesale offer, which I think is what most new investors are doing. It's like, hey, look, I just got to buy it for a discount. The old maximum allowable calculator kind of concept. Go ahead and put out that discount cash offer, but go ahead and throw out a couple of other options of creative financing, right? And presenting that to the sellers. And our results so far have been pretty awesome for our clients. First and foremost, they're actually getting more of their discounted offers, their discounted cash offers accepted, because now all of a sudden the seller is like they're in control, right? They got options, they can make a choice. But it also then is introducing these creative financing terms and kind of breaking the ice. Whereas a lot of these, wholesalers are like, well, I don't even know how to introduce the subject to these sellers. Like, how do I even broach that conversation? And so we built a tool right inside of REI Blackbook. You basically plug in some of the numbers. We do all the math for you, literally calculates the payment. And it's the same old, the old, adage, like, hey, look, if it's going to be their price, it's going to be my terms. Right. Now, if they're going to take my price, well, it's their terms, and that's all cash right now, right? They want the present value. They want the cash now. So we take that concept and ultimately make it really, really easy. And it's a new tool right inside of REI Blackbook we call the multi-offer generator. So we'll make sure we get that turned on for you. And then if any of folks listening to this as well, they want to kind of take a free spin of REI Blackbook. This is the lead platform that Ray uses to manage his real estate investing business, all of the incoming calls, the lead management, and everything else. We have a special offer for all the folks out there listening to this. If you go to reiblackbook.com/massive, it's pretty simple, just /massive. Then you can take advantage of a free trial for REI Blackbook. Give it a spin. And we're going to throw in a couple of other bonuses. Go to the page and check it out, and you'll see all the details. All right. So, Ray, what would you like to leave folks with today?
Well, I would say, make good deals, get out there and work every day. Don't quit. A lot of people quit, and just hang around the people that are doing what you want to do. because they've figured out how to do it. And you may be real close and you're just doing one thing wrong out of 20. So just be around the people that are doing what you want and just go to work. And this is our life. When this is over, what's next? And this is our life and this is our prime time. So I'd say, if you've got a full-time job, you should have a full-time job plus 20 hours and then slowly get out of that full-time job. So just hustle. And, one of the things is we stand on the shoulders of the people around us and the people before us. And I wouldn't have survived without the tools that you made, like with our REI Black Book. You're leveraging hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars worth of tools, and you can get that so cheap. Like, you'd be crazy not to leverage that. So
they could go try to rebuild it, Ray. I think I've spent about $7 million to date building the damn thing. So if somebody wants to go ahead and rebuild it,
why would you do that? Why wouldn't I just leverage? This business is all about leverage. I'm going to leverage you and hopefully give you some input occasionally and say, okay, well, how about this? What if we do this? Or what if we do that? And then you spend the $5,000 or $10,000 implementing it, and I'll use it for free.
Yeah.
Or actually for the
Ray, hey, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. I absolutely admire you, man. Love what you're doing down there. And we'll talk soon. All right.
Okay, Damon. Thanks for talking. See you later. Bye.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Ray Sasser. Just to recap, Ray talked about the importance of becoming a creative deal maker and having the ability to make creative offers. And as Damon alluded to, we have a brand new tool that allows you to quickly and easily analyze deals, make creative offers, and create these offer letters that have 2, 3, 4 different types of offers on them. The tool is called the Multi-Offer Generator, and you can learn all about it by going to www.reiblackbook.com/MOG. On that page, you'll learn all about the tool, and you'll also see some case studies on how some of our early users have been using the tool to find deals that they otherwise would not have. Again, just go to reiblackbook.com/MOG to learn all about the new tool. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week.